Or perhaps you have been doing a lot and you've been climbing your career, but for some reason, there's just a point in your career where you just can't get past. You've tried, you've applied for different roles and different positions, but you feel like you are at that famous glass ceiling in your career. Well, today in this video, I'm going to share with you one of the reasons why you may be at that glass ceiling in your career and one strategy to help you overcome it. Now, there's a lot of strategies I can give to you about breaking that glass ceiling in your career, but I want to make sure that I keep our live very focused. And if you want me to go into much more detail on this, feel free to let me know. I will put that in my list of topics to dive deeper in on my YouTube channel. Now, if you are new to me, I'm really glad that you are here today. My name is Dr. Jacinta Lamontai, and I'm here to really support women in leadership that are trying to elevate themselves, whether it is through their executive presence, executive communication skills, and being able to be more confident. So if you are at a point in your career where you're really trying to advance and go to that next level in your career, and you truly want to elevate how you are communicating, how you are presenting yourself as a leader and make that bigger impact on your company, your businesses, and the world, this is a place for you to be. Feel free to subscribe. I go over real life strategies, real life scenarios. This is not the channel where you're going to hear me talk about a lot of hypotheses or a lot of situational issues that come up that I've never actually experienced myself. This is not the fluff channel. This is the channel where you are going to get real strategies, real tips, real scenarios that I've experienced in my over 20 years as a C-suite executive, a manager, a director, an executive coach, and a public speaker that will fast track your career in a short amount of time. You are gaining basically over 20 years worth of knowledge within 10 minutes. So this is the place you want to be for sure if you want to learn a lot more. Now, I talked to you briefly about breaking that glass ceiling. How many of you have ever experienced that glass ceiling? I just had a call with a client about this glass ceiling that people reach all the time. And oftentimes what happens when it comes to the glass ceiling is that we are doing as much as we can in our career, but for some reason, we just can't get past here. We can't get past here. We're just looking up and we just can't get past here. So one of the reasons why this happens a lot of times is that people really get upset because they're doing so much and they're so frustrated and they just don't know how to break the glass ceiling. Now, I want to say for those of you who are just now joining, welcome, welcome. Before I go into it, I appreciate you all for being here today, and feel free to place where you are joining from today in this big, beautiful world. I'd like to hear where you're coming from and be able to support you on your journey. If you have not subscribed to this channel, this is a great place for you to subscribe if you want to get real strategies, real techniques, and real situational advice to those very easy and very complex situations that happen to leaders. I am here to support you. This is where you want to be. And let me know if you have any questions in the comments below about how to break that glass ceiling. Okay, so I want to say hello to everybody that's joining. Amanda, hello, welcome, welcome. Glad you're here. Jason Blue, hello, welcome, welcome. And we have Belasting Dinest. Hello, how are you doing today? Amanda, hello, hello. If y'all have questions about how to break the glass ceiling in your career, this is your time. This is your time to, one, ask me questions. Learn over 20 years of experience from a C-suite executive, a manager, a director, a public speaker, and an executive coach. I will help you. So this is your opportunity to ask me any questions and want to get some insight from you on that. So I'm talking specifically about how to break that glass ceiling in your career. Ask me any questions that you have as it relates to advancing yourself in your career as you are moving forward. All right, so let's see if we have any questions before I go into what it is that is holding you back, that's causing you to not break that glass ceiling. All right, so let's see what we have. So we have a question on Black crime. So, of course, always concerned about that. That's not something I definitely want to see happen, for sure, I would say that. And then I do want to go ahead and get started so I can provide you all with some value very quickly. So one of the reasons why oftentimes you may notice that, sorry, my light went out, that you're at that glass ceiling in your career it comes down to this very, 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 very simply. It is that there's something going on with the way that you are either communicating in a written, verbal, or nonverbal way. These are the reasons why you're not breaking that glass ceiling. Let me go into more detail. Oftentimes when you're at that glass ceiling, there's something that you're trying to accomplish. And Jason mentioned about, should you throw rocks at the glass house? Yes, you should throw rocks at the glass house. And so if you're able to communicate at that higher level and really master that verbal communication, your written communication, and master your body language, you'll throw some rocks at the glass house, the glass ceiling, and the glass ceiling should break. So the ways you can do this is that you have to be mindful of how you communicate. If you're not communicating in a very articulate way and sounding very confident, I can guarantee you this is one of the reasons why you are not able to break that glass ceiling. Now, another thing that comes up oftentimes, if you're not able to show your value or communicate in a way to where people understand that you provide a lot of value to an organization, you'll stay where you are. And even if you are looking for an external organization to work with and you share some of your accomplishments, but you're not sharing them in the way that really shows you as the candidate of choice when you're trying to elevate and go to that next level in your career, then a lot of times you may not be able to move forward, and it all comes down to how you are communicating. The conversation I had with a client of mine was that the client was in a role doing very well and felt like she was in a glass ceiling. Like she could not get past being a manager. She wanted to advance into more of a senior leadership role, and she just didn't know how to do it. And so when we had a conversation about why does she feel like she's not able to, one of the things that came up that I want to share with y'all is that she felt like she could be doing a little bit better in terms of how she's communicating with her managers. Now, this is something that happens all the time. So I want to know from you, have you ever felt like you've not been able to break that glass ceiling? And do you feel like how you are communicating has something to do with it? Majority of the time, it does. So you want to be able to articulate your value. You want to be able to showcase your expertise in the written, verbal, and nonverbal format so that people know that you are at that higher level and you're ready to throw those rocks, as it was said earlier, to break the glass ceiling. Now, one of the ways that you can do this outside of taking stock in terms of how you're communicating verbally, how you are communicating in writing, how you are communicating with your body language, is to take an assessment and think about those type of skills that you may need or that you do not have that is preventing you from moving forward in your career and breaking that glass ceiling. A lot of times we struggle with this as professionals because we are so busy in our careers and our roles and our businesses that we don't really take that time to just stop and think. And that's the reason why you work with an executive coach like myself to create that space for you to help you move forward in your career in a very fast way. But if you don't take that time to really sit and think realistically and be honest with yourself and say, I want to advance and I want to break this glass ceiling that I'm in, but I can't do it. What are the things that are holding me up from this? So this is something I would tell my clients if we were in a coaching session. This is what I would recommend for you to do, is to really go deep and figure out what it is and be honest with yourself. It could be how you're communicating. It could be something you said. It could be something you've done. That's okay. The big thing about working with a coach is that we just need to be aware of it. And so if we're aware of it, we can create a strategy session to be able to help you overcome it. I do have a strategy session, an executive strategy session that I'm offering only this week. So it's something, if you were interested in it, then you're welcome to reach out to me via LinkedIn, Instagram, or here on YouTube. Just let me know. I'll support you. So those are things I want you to keep in mind if you're trying to break that glass ceiling. I do want to get to questions in the chat because I appreciate you all for being here, and I hope you subscribe to the channel if you like this content, if you want to get real advice as it relates to how you can elevate yourself as a leader. I focus on women in leadership, but I understand a lot of people in my audience are outside of that, and that's okay. I know that you're passionate about elevating in your career. You want to make more money. You want to be a better leader. So I welcome you to be here. Now, the things I mentioned so far, if you're just now joining, is that if you want to break that glass ceiling in your career, there's one very, very important aspect of a skill that you need to master, and that is how you are communicating. Most of the time, if you feel like you are at a glass ceiling in your career and you need to throw rocks at it, as it was mentioned earlier by one of our audience members, is you have to be able to master your written, verbal, and nonverbal communication skills, because if you can't articulate your value, your worth, and your expertise, you will not be able to break that glass ceiling. So let's go to the comments. Let's see what was said. So yes, we talked about throwing the rocks. The rocks in this case would be how you're communicating. And yes, so definitely glad that you're here on the channel. This channel provides a lot of great insights, a lot of great resources to women in leadership. So if there's any content here that is maybe too advanced, that's okay. Learn as much as you can. I do communicate at a higher level and a bit more advanced topics. These are really for those women in leadership that are trying to move forward in their careers. Okay, so someone asked about, okay, can you help me why I always get fired for being myself? So, well, I appreciate you mentioning that, and that's something we can definitely talk about. You have to be your authentic self at work. And so there's a balance there. So if you tell me a little bit more, or whatever you feel comfortable disclosing, but if you tell me a little bit more about like maybe a situation that's happened, I'll provide you with more insight. But I'll just say, generally speaking, these are things that come up. Sometimes when we think about being ourselves, it depends on what's going on overall. So you need to be your authentic self at work. I highly advocate for that. You should not be somebody that you are not at work, because ultimately it will come out. So being yourself is very important. You need to do that. Now, sometimes what people get confused of when they talk about being yourself is how they react to things. So sometimes if you are really upset, some people may have a hard time being able to control how they respond. And so instead of maybe thinking through things in a very logical, realistic type of way, sometimes people respond and get upset. And this happens to the best of people. So this, and I don't know if this is your situation specifically, but I'm just telling you generally what I've seen, why people maybe sometimes struggle at jobs or in businesses and et cetera. It can happen to the leaders of the organizations too. So it's not just employees. But sometimes when you have a crisis situation come up, and I have a live video here about how to manage a crisis, so you definitely want to check that out if you want to be able to start managing a crisis like a leader and being calm about it, is that people really, they don't know how to handle pressure. And sometimes pressure, it can be hard. It can be really, really hard. You can have just like a million things thrown at you at one time, and you're just like, I'm done. Like, I can't do this anymore. Well, even though in your mind you want to say, I'm done, I can't do this anymore, sometimes you may not want to respond specifically that way, because oftentimes what happens is that you can put yourself in a situation where you are decreasing your executive presence, and people will take note of that. So if you're not consistent in the way that you manage things on the day-to-day basis, when you have those moments where it's a lot of pressure, people see it and they may either take it personally and they try to find ways to get rid of you. You know, people do that. I'm telling you, in a business setting and in a work setting, some people, they take things personally, and it may not be something to be taken personally. They just may take it personally, and then they have pretty much an eye on you, and they want to make sure that every little thing you do, we're going to watch it, we're going to document it, and then we're going to terminate you. That is the reality. And as I mentioned on this channel, I'm talking about real situations. This is real situations, what happened. And this is how people act. People will become very, very emotional. So as an individual, you want to try to not be that emotional person to get really, really upset. So I definitely want to try to regulate yourself. There's a lot that goes into it. And this is just a way that I have found that has helped me personally. I've dealt with some very friendly and some very, very contentious situations that have helped me. And I've been in high stakes meetings also. So let me see what else was said. Okay, I just say everything I think about situations, people act and stuff. So there's a way you can, I think the key is right now, and I appreciate you so much for bringing this up, because it's not only just insight for you too, but it's actually insight for everybody that's watching this live. So I really appreciate you so much. And I hope you subscribe, because you're asking some fantastic questions that I address to help individuals become better leaders. But the way, if you say what you think all the time, there's nothing wrong with that. That's the first thing. There's nothing wrong with that. It's the way that it's said. is what the key is. Now, you can still say what you think, but the way that you say it may have either a very positive or very negative impact. So, for instance, if you have a situation that comes up and you know somebody's doing completely wrong, like they're really, really in a situation where they're just messing up, then you can say what you need to say to them, but it's the way you say it is what makes the difference. How you make the person feel when you say it is what makes the difference. And so if you're at that point in your career where you want to try to elevate how you're communicating with other people, you have to be mindful of how you're saying things. You don't have to walk on eggshells with people. I don't do that. I absolutely don't do that. And I don't encourage my clients to do that either. But there's a way to have a productive conversation with someone. Let me give you an example. If someone had made a mistake, and I've talked about this a lot on my channel, when someone makes a mistake or there's a situation where you feel like you got to say everything that you need to say about the situation that came up, then maybe instead of just saying immediately what is the first thing that comes to your mind, why did you do this? What's the problem? I don't understand why you made this mistake. Ask a question first to get a gauge in terms of what's going on with the person. So you may want to ask, I know we had a situation that happened today, and the outcome was not as well as we'd like for it to be. Can you please share with me what happened? And let the person talk. And that is a great way to be able to still say what you need to say. You're saying, oh, there was an issue, there's a problem, I don't know what it was, but you're giving that other person the ability to respond. Oftentimes, if you are talking about saying the first thing that everything that you think doesn't necessarily need to be said. It can be said in a very concise way to where it's not maybe every single thing, but it is still highlighting whatever the issue is or whatever it is that you're trying to express. So knowing what to say and what not to say is important. I have a YouTube video, I have a live actually, where I talk about what to say and what not to say. That's very important too, that you might want to check out. Thinking on Your Feet is one also you may want to check out as well. That can actually help you be able to be more mindful in terms of how you're saying things in those situations. Be yourself, be your authentic self, but there's just a way that you can say things that will make it come across as very, very professional, but still expressing whether it's something positive or whether it's something negative, in a way to where it's very understandable to other people. So I hope that that answers your question. And let me see what else was said in the chat. I don't like fake people. I don't either. And I agree with you on that. There's situations that come up where someone's not necessarily being themselves. Personally, for me, I would much rather someone not act like they like me and then just go around and just, stab you in the back. So I agree. I don't want fake people either. You have to be yourself, but there's just a very assertive way. And this is what I talk about on my channel in terms of developing your executive presence. Executive presence is very, very important in these type of situations that you mentioned. If you're able to build your executive presence, then and be consistent with it. That's the reason why people end up having a hard time with it, is if you're consistent with your executive presence, then it will put you in situations where you are being that same person, whether the sun is shining outside and there's a rainbow and there's clouds in the sky, or the same person when there's a thunderstorm, there's lightning bolts, and there's hail falling out of the sky. You want to be that same person as much as you can consistently, because when people see that you respond the same way, whether things are going great or things are maybe not going as well, then they know that, okay, this is how this person responds. Versus if you are having that wonderful day and you're like, yeah, everything's great. And then you're having that rough day where you're just like, everything's bad. And you're just acting that way that everything is bad. People pick up on it and they take it personally and they say, oh, well, this person's acting different. They're not acting right. And then they go tell their manager or they go tell somebody else, oh, they were acting so weird today. I didn't like it. And then that's where it all starts, where people start trying to target you and start trying to look at you and find ways to get rid of you and try to terminate you. I know this may be a bit more than what you all were asking for. I know we're talking about breaking the glass ceiling, but this topic is so important because I'm telling you, in reality, this is what happens. This is what happens. This is the channel where you're going to learn about real situations that happen, not the fluff, not the theory, not hypotheses. I'm not here to tell you all that. I didn't do all these things for 20 years of my life as a C-suite and manager director to tell you something that is not going to help you move forward in your career. So I really appreciate you for asking that question. So yes, indeed. Thank you. I appreciate that. Absolutely. Another comment is, well, I have a feeling they are scared of me, and I got like 3 times fired by email or phone. Well, and sometimes depending on how you present yourself, people will sometimes get intimidated by you. That's the honest truth. I mean, that happens depending on what you do. And sometimes it could be how you're communicating, or it could be your executive presence. So you might have a executive presence that just happens to be a very, very strong executive presence, and people sometimes are threatened by that. They get intimidated by that, and so they may do such things like that in terms of sending an email or by phone or etc. So if that happens, it may not be the right setting for you, but I would encourage you that you're being yourself. So you want to be your authentic self. Maybe think about the way that you're communicating and what really needs to be said. And the things that are not very, very important, that maybe you're just feeling that you want to say emotionally, those are the things that you may not necessarily need to say at that particular time, whenever that situation comes up. That's something that I've seen that helps a lot of clients, is to think about what's important. And sometimes you're in the middle of a situation, it just happens now, and you're just like, I can't believe this just happened. And you respond. Well, find some time to break away before you respond. So if you need to take a walk outside, or you need to shut your door if you're in an office, or if you need to just pause for a second and just tell everyone, I need just a few moments, give me a few moments to figure a couple things out. Take that time. Everybody has to have that time. I don't know what that time is for you. I don't know what you need to help yourself become grounded and present in the situation to where you can react in a positive way. Sometimes you may not have that time. And so if you don't have that time, you have to build your executive presence up and build up your stamina to be at a place where you can handle those very high pressure situations when they come up, so that you don't respond just immediately with the first thing that comes off your mind. You have time to really think and say, okay, this is what happened. This is the issue. This is how I'm going to fix it. That is literally the 3 steps that I do every single time when I have a high stakes crisis, leadership challenge, fire, whatever you want to call it, situation, issue, problem, whatever you want to call it. This is the exact 3 steps that I do to manage those situations in a way that showcases leadership and not someone that's being very emotional. I say, what is the issue? This is the problem. How can I fix it? I literally do those same 3 things. And sure, of course, I appreciate you. Yeah, I said thank you for your knowledge. Absolutely. I'm here to help you any way that I can. I know sometimes when you're in these situations, there's not really like a book out there that says, this is what you should do if someone's trying to fire you. How can you figure this out? You just don't, there's not a book out there to do that sometimes. And a lot of times you will not know this information unless you've been in it. And so that's the only challenge I see sometimes on YouTube, is that you'll have people that's been executive coaches, or they're in that executive coaching field, but they've actually worked as managers, or maybe they've worked in the middle of a management. They haven't actually worked at the C-suite, where you kind of you're looking and you know what's going on. And so there's a lot of theory, there's a lot of hypotheses, and this is where you get real knowledge. This is where you get real situations. I'll tell you, this is what happens, whether it sounds great or if it sounds like, wow, I can't believe that. But in actuality, there's a lot of things that happen in the business world and in the world as an employee or employer that people just don't talk about, because sometimes they're a bit afraid to talk about it. They don't want to say, oh, this is what happens on the back end of things. I'll tell you exactly what happens on the back end, because there's times when the employees make mistakes, and there's times when the employers make mistake. And a lot of times we kind of focus so much on employers that the employees are the ones that feel like they're left out. And when these situations happen, like terminations and etc., you just are left feeling just mad. You just don't understand why this happened. I don't understand why. I'm just being myself. And sometimes that's, people just have it out for you. And I'll just tell you, when you're elevating yourself as a leader, or even as a person, some people are okay with it and some people are not. And sometimes those situations will happen where you may have those terminations where people are just not okay with it. And the one comfort I would give to you is that when those situations happen, it's easy to get mad. It's easy to be upset about it. But just know that there is something and I say this often on my channel, there's something that people see in you that they wish that they had. And the reason that they don't have it is because they just don't have it, and they see you have it and people get jealous. And that may be more than what you all want to know today, and that may be more of just this is real life things that happen outside of the business world. But oftentimes I've noticed that when people start acting towards you in that way, or they're trying to just nitpick and find ways to get you fired and terminate and all this stuff, there's something you have that they don't have. So it might be your executive presence that may just be at a higher level, but just be mindful of how you're communicating. That's the only thing I would mention is if you feel like you got to say every single thing, then just be mindful of how you're communicating. Take that few moments to just, okay, this is the situation, this is the problem, this is how I'm going to fix it. Think it through, then say, okay, this is the situation, this is the problem, this is how I'm going to fix it in a very even tone, calm way. If you elevate your voice too high, people are going to say, oh, what's going on? If you talk too low, then you're going to think you're mad at you. You want to just be that very even tone, very calm individual all of the time. All right. And so there's another question. Thank you for your knowledge. Okay. Yep. No problem. And the other comment was, out of experience, I learned to never trust your colleagues. Shut your mouth, do your work, and don't tell anything about yourself. I will give you a thumbs up on that, because you have to really be careful in a workplace setting. And I'm glad you bring this up, because I just talked to a prospective client earlier about boundaries, and boundaries are critically important. People make this mistake all the time, that exactly what you're saying right now. And people will do that. They will go to work. They think they're going to, depending on where you are in the world, they think that they're at, just like a party or hanging out. And yeah, I did this weekend, I did that. That's the fastest way for you to set yourself up for not being able to elevate in your career, and also prevent you from breaking that glass ceiling too, because you do have to really keep your mouth quiet about yourself personally. People may feel some type of way about it, but the more you stay consistent than people expect it. The reason why people struggle with this is that they'll come into new roles and new jobs, and they'll start to get familiar, get comfortable, and they'll say, oh, wow, I do this, I do that, and talk all their personal business, the crisis they going on at home, or whatever they got going on in their family. And then when they're at that point in their career where they really want to advance, they want to go to a manager role, they want to elevate in their career, they struggle, and they can't break that glass ceiling because they've already set that foundation of this is what they're going to talk about. And when they decide to say, I'm going to switch gears, I'm going to present myself in a more professional way, I want to elevate my career, I want to present myself like a manager that I'm trying to be, or the leader of my company, then people are wondering, why you're acting different. You're acting really different. You're not acting yourself. You're not being your same, like, friendly, talking about your personal business self. And people get mad and they struggle with that. And so I've seen it personally happen as a manager. I've seen it happen just countless times, I would say. I've seen it happen so many times where people really struggle with this. So that is some really great advice that you mentioned on here. And as I mentioned, I'm sorry I pronounced your name incorrectly, Belastingdienst, I think. If I said it incorrectly, I'm sorry. But that's some really, really great advice and some really great topics that you mentioned that come up. You do have to don't share your personal business at work. Don't share your personal business at your business. You just don't do it. I mean, keep the main thing. It's so very, very important. I have a 3-part series on my YouTube channel that talks about boundaries. It is an older series. I did it via Instagram, and so you'll see it's a bit dated compared to where my videos are now, but it has some really great advice there too, and some strategies to use to help you set those boundaries at work. It's 3-part series, and this is not just boundaries at work, but boundaries just in life personally as well. So definitely check it out. It'll definitely provide you with some insight there. Okay, let me see what else. So the other thing that was mentioned was, but it is almost feel natural to talk about your feelings and stuff because you see your colleagues sometimes more than your own family. Yes, we spend more time at work than we do with our family. That is so very, very true. But you can still have good relationships with people even when you are at work, and you still can be somewhat protective of your own personal boundary. One of the things I talk about in the video, and I'll give you just I would say a teaser of it, the very first video, I believe, is you have to determine what are the things you're okay with talking about and what are the things that you're not okay with talking about, especially in a workplace setting or even with people in general. And if it's something that is very personal to you that you don't feel okay talking about, then don't do it, because you do have to be very, very careful with colleagues in the workplace, just in general, because you just don't know who's really supporting you and who's really not. And I can tell you that sometimes you may never figure it out. I know I've been in situations where I've worked at companies for years, and you may think that someone has been supportive of you, but the entire time they have not been, and you don't find it out until years later. So you really want to be careful. And that's something that you mentioned in your comment, which I appreciate it, because a lot of people, they need to hear things like this. Like, you do need to come to work and be quiet and, just make sure that you're doing what you need to do. You still be nice and still be cordial. You still want to be that charismatic person. If you need help with that, this is what I talk about on my channel. I'll be happy to support you on your journey with that. But you want to be that charismatic type of person. But there's a balance there, and people struggle with that balance. One of the reasons why I know I've helped my clients a lot with that is that I've been in different types of scenarios where I've had to still be charismatic, but I have to still be the boss, right? So I've had the chance to be featured on the news. I've given Florida State congressional testimony, and I've spent some time with congressional leaders in Washington, D.C. here in the United States. So I've been in those situations where you have to have that balance. If you're too much of like the person that's not talking to anybody, then everybody thinks you're odd. But if you are the person that shares too much, and everybody thinks you're just a hangout person. This is true. But if you find that balance where you can be the person that is the leader, you can still be the person that laughs and has a good time at work, and you can put them together, then that's where your real power lies, because you will be that person that people look to, and that's where influence starts to form too. So finding that balance, putting it together, is really the great way to really balance things off and still be consistent and be that same person all the time. Okay, yes. All right. So he said, that's true. Yes, absolutely. I think you had some difficult moments as a boss. Yes, I have. I've had very, very contentious situations, and I share this with you because this is reality. These are things that really do happen. People don't talk about them because they don't want to talk about them. But yes, I've had some very, very wonderful, and I've had some very challenging situations as a boss and as a leader. And I want to be able to help you all not make mistakes that I personally made, or to be able to see ahead when you start seeing things are looking a little weird. So when you start seeing people acting a little differently toward you, and you feel like they're acting this way, they may be trying to get rid of me, well, there may be opportunity for you to look around for other opportunities before that happens. So yes, I have been through a lot, and I've done a lot in my 20 years, but I'm here. That's why I'm here to help you. I'm here to really support you all and give you insights that you probably would not have access to unless you've been in these roles. So you're getting over 20 years worth of advice in, we're going on 33 minutes right now. So this is a great way to fast track your career and your success. And I really appreciate you so much for mentioning some of these topics, because these are really good, very informative topics that people do not talk about, and they struggle with every single day in their careers, in their jobs, in their personal lives. I focus more so on the professional side of things. So I'm really focused on how you're developing as a professional in your businesses or just in your careers. That's my main focus. But a lot of these things that we're talking about do spill over into personal life as well. But here I talk about the professional aspect of things. Okay, so let's see. But is it true that we have colored people that actually set back at work? Have actually a setback at work? I don't quite understand that one, but I think what you're trying to say is it true that we have colored people actually a setback at work? I don't understand that one quite just yet. So if you can rephrase that one, I feel like you're talking about maybe, is there some type of setbacks that happen with minorities? I feel like that might be what you're trying to say. Sometimes it does happen. It can happen. It just depends on the setting. And there's some settings where you may experience it. Oh, okay, racist stuff. Yes. Okay, yes. Sometimes you can. Sometimes you may experience it. you definitely may experience it. I would say for sure I've experienced it before. So I'm not going to sit here and be the person that says it doesn't exist. No, it does exist in some situations. It does. Now, there's sometimes where if you're just doing something wrong, it doesn't matter what your race is, you're just doing something wrong. That's what it is. And I've dealt with that also, where sometimes if you're doing something wrong, it's just wrong. But sometimes it just depends on the setting that you're in. You may notice that a bit as it relates to your careers, especially as you're trying to elevate yourself, moving forward in your career. That happens sometimes, and the best way to really counteract those situations when they come up is to communicate at a higher level than your peers. That's something I talk about on my channel. That is my mission for everybody that's watching. And then to establish your executive presence and be that same consistent person all the time. And then make sure that you are always a step ahead, whether that is how you're presenting information or how you're communicating with other people. Develop that sense of foresight so that you can see ahead. And the only way you develop the sense of foresight is when you've been through enough experiences to know and pick out things that are happening. And then also just reaching out to somebody like me. If you need some support and you're like, I just don't know, this looks a little weird in terms of how it's happening at my job or my business. I don't know what I should do or how I should say it. Sometimes if you don't have the experience, then you have to basically get the experience from someone that has the experience. So that's why I'm here on the channel, to support you and help you. But yes, racism sometimes can happen, but sometimes it does depend on the context and what's going on. If you're doing something incorrectly, it's incorrectly regardless of what race you are. Sometimes there may be situations that happen that you feel like maybe somebody is maybe giving you a hard time for reasons that may be related to that. So yes, I would say that does happen sometimes, but there's ways to get past it, and really there's ways to get past it. And what I mentioned to you is just, you have to be that exceptional person regardless of where you are. You just have to be that same consistent person all of the time. You have to be that same consistent person all the time. That is really helpful. Okay, so, all right, awesome. I understand every word you said. This 20 minutes, I just also sub to your channel. Well, thank you. Appreciate you for subscribing. If you have any other topics that, you mentioned a ton of topics today, so really appreciate that. Great topics I can definitely work back into. But if you have any other topics, feel free to always leave comments on my channel. I do read those. And if there's something else you think, wow, I like this, or I really would like to learn more about it, then let me know. I will record a video for you, absolutely, for sure, and make sure that either I do it in a live format or I do it in a recorded format to provide you with some insights that can help you go to that next level in your career. So if you all don't have any additional questions, I appreciate you spending so much time with me today. This 37 minutes we're going on our live. This is probably one of my longer lives, but it's been very, very helpful, very insightful. And I hope everybody that's watching it or watching the replay gained some really good knowledge and some really great tips from other people that have had situations. I appreciate you sharing those so much, because this is how we grow. This is how we elevate ourselves, is that we learn from each other. And that's one of the things that I really, really enjoy about YouTube, is that it gives us that opportunity to have a community and to be able to talk about things that sometimes maybe wouldn't necessarily be able to talk about sometimes in a professional setting that actually do happen in real life. So if you have any other questions for me, let me know. I'm here to help you. And if you have found this content very helpful, feel free to like the video, because it does actually help it go out to other people. And feel free to take a moment to subscribe. If you like the content and you feel like you're getting value, this is what I talk about all the time on my channel. And if you need some direct support, I have an executive strategy session that I'm offering only this week. Feel free to reach out to me at LinkedIn at Dr. Jacinta Lamantai, or you can contact me at Instagram at X-Lite Excellence Incorporated. So I appreciate y'all for staying with me for so long this evening, and appreciate your support as always. And if you have anything, you have questions, I'm here to support you on your journey. Just let me know and I'll do a video for you and help you out. All right, awesome. I like to talk about a lot of stuff. Well, yeah, that's great. Perfect. This is a great video for it. If you have other topics or other challenges that you're facing, feel free to let me know. Put it in the comments on any video. I will, or reach out to me on any of the platforms I mentioned. I will respond to you and I'll record a video just for you, because you have some really great topics also. And absolutely, thank you for your time. I appreciate that. Thank you for your time, for being here and asking some really fantastic questions that will absolutely help a lot of people. And it won't help people just in the now, it will help people 10, 15, 20 years from now. So I appreciate you, because this is what YouTube is about. I mean, YouTube is really about growth and helping people in the future. And that's my mission here, is to really support as many people as possible to help them elevate their communication skills to impact other generations. So that's what we're doing, and that's why I'm here, and that's why we're all here to help each other. So thank you so much. I appreciate you. I'm looking forward to seeing you all in another video, and I hope you have a great evening, morning, or afternoon, whatever time it is in the beautiful world that you are in right now. Bye for now.